first of all, the issue of perception, which I thought was a theme in this play, is an active one in the legal system. Not only from the judicial perspective, but from the criminal defense perspective that Mr. Eger can talk to. There is always a perception, especially looking at it from an African-American standpoint, that the system is racist. And that perception is usually based on the fact that, for the most part, those who are involved in the system in terms of an authoritative role, like the judges, the prosecutors, law enforcement, they tend to be, for the most part, male and white. And so many times, when an African-American or other minority enters into that courthouse or enters into that courtroom, the perception is that things are stacked against them. So dealing with race from not only the perspective of a litigant, but the perspective of jurors, is all about perception. And so I thought that the play was particularly poignant in pointing that out. I don't know if Mr. Eger wants to talk about it from his client's perspective.
But as Judge Williams pointed out, when I select a jury, during the selection of those jurors, I will review that very component with the prospective jurors. And when you look around in a courtroom alone, you will see the overwhelming majority of defense attorneys are white. The judges are, Judge Williams, are white. The prosecutor, white. The clerk, white. The bailiff, white. And the overwhelming majority of the jurors are white. So to look to my client, regardless of what minority he or she might represent, can't help but feel this is a jury of my peers. And so, again, perception overtaking what may or may not be the reality. But that's just part of it. And those of you who've seen the play, I think, will see that. It's distilled in a very short period of time, the process which goes on in my office in the representation of the client. But there are a lot of truths to what are discussed in that, and the strategy that goes on. Because it's certainly not beyond the defense attorney to exploit any opportunity we can.
The only other thing I'll say about that is race plays a part in the strategy of every case, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case. In a civil case in which you're a plaintiff's attorney and you're asking for money, you ask for it differently if your client is black or African American than you would if your client is white. And you will only be able to talk to attorneys about that personally, because all attorneys want to tell you that the system is colorblind. The system is set up so that race should not matter. Our symbol of justice is blindfolded so that race should not matter. But all attorneys will tell you, and even judges will tell you, that how your litigant presents themselves in terms of whether or not they're black, African American, Hispanic, gay, is very important. For instance, one of the things as a defense attorney I would have to struggle with is whether or not, to give you an example, I had a client who's African American and yet his wife was white. And she wanted to be a witness for him. And the jury that was selected, this was in rural DeSoto County, the jury that was selected, I think, would have liked my client, but would have been instantly turned off by my client's wife. So I had to make a conscious decision not to call his wife as a witness. In fact, I had his wife wait outside the courtroom. Because had they perceived that, it may have influenced, at least from my perspective, it may have influenced how they have voted in the jury room. Those are the things that you have to deal with, and those are the things that aren't talked about, but those are realities. The same thing with personal injury cases. I have talked to attorneys who say that when they have an African-American client, they have to ask for damages different because there's a certain perception that's not spoken of in that African-American plaintiffs may be trying to, quote, get over, and we're not going to reward them the way that we would reward white plaintiffs. And these are the realities that no one really wants to talk about because the issue of race is so volatile. Nobody's comfortable dealing with it. But from a lawyer's point of view and from a judicial point of view, these perceptions are really reality.